Oh, that was obscured. Anyway, welcome to the third review of the evening. Up this time is Future Night. Future Night. In this classic platformer from 1986, take on the role of Sir Randolph as he quests to free the fair maid, Amelia, from the evil clutches of Spegbot the Terrible. If nothing else, that is a name.
It's British. There's British people jokes.
Anyway, acting upon the interdimensional distress signal from the galactic cruiser SS Rust Bucket, don your Omnibot Mark IV and venture forth. Indeed, relive these days in this remaster emulated version, which contains both the ZX Spectrum and Amstrad CPC versions. So this is not the first rodeo with this particular brand of Pixel Game UK emulation. If you will recall, or if you want to seek it out, we covered the game Jumpman, which came in a similar package. And I am going to once again wonder, where are the other versions? Because this was released on the Commodore 64 and MSX. Okay, I could understand not having the MSX, but where's the Commodore 64 version? Because guess what? The Commodore 64 was a very popular computer in England.
Pet, you can't jump forward unless you are moving already, so you have to have a small walk up. Also, that wavy thing is actually a bouncy pad and not death.
I hate old games.
I'm like, they have their quirks, and see, this is what I was talking about. In terms of the lens of history, do we look at this, from the lens of 1986? Although considering the odd placements of ZX Spectrum keys, this is probably doing better than that. Or do we look at it from the modern day?
Considering this came out in the same year as Metroid and The Legend of Zelda and Castlevania, and
right, that
I mean, there's some accounting for platform too.
Yeah, that is true. But here's another twist. Do you view it in the lens of PC gaming platforming as well? Because remember, what you could do on an NES, you really couldn't do on a PC.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the secret sauce of the NES. The smooth scrolling, specifically smooth horizontal scrolling, that system was very capable at.
Yeah, and all the hardware was bespoke.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than
additional. Because to cite one of the computers mentioned here, the MSX. The thing is, the MSX eventually got smooth scrolling, but not until late in the MSX2 era. Because a lot of scrolling on the MSX is not good.
Mm-hmm.
If it's scrolling at all. And, that was kind of like you see the design here. Like, you notice the one room per area.
Yeah, so that brings me to my first issue with third issue with this. The first one that's gameplay related. Is that there is, while yes, it is all unsmooth scrolling, there's also absolutely no indication whatsoever which screen edges you can pass through and which ones you can't. For example, sometimes when you're up at the top of the screen, you can just jump and go up to another screen. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can go off the left and right sides of a thing, and sometimes you can't. There is no particular indication. The only real the only real direction you have about where you're supposed to be going is usually go toward the. I usually was going toward the exit signs. I honestly don't even know how much progress I made.
Fine.
The second. Okay, so working backwards from there. The first issue I had with this is kind of the graphics. There are the two versions actually have, I've checked, the layouts are basically the same. The graphics are actually very different. The Amstrad version, which you're playing now, has a lot of ugly colors. The sprites are kind of small and indistinct. And that, whereas on the C64 version, no, the C64. No, what's the other one in here? ZX Spectrum?
Yes.
Yeah, the Spectrum version has what that thing does for colors, which is enormous blocks of color with black and white or red and white or something moving over them when a sprite moves between the things. It can only color regions of the screen, not different layers. But the individual sprites are actually much larger and clearer. Both versions have horrifically ear-splitting audio. So your actions in this are jump, which you can jump straight up a pretty good height that is not very modulatable. You can do arced jumps, but only if you are already moving in a direction. So if you are, for example, standing up against a wall that comes up to your knees, that will prevent you from moving forward enough to be able to jump over it. But if you back up a little bit, it will. At the start of the game, you have 999 stamina, which is listed under high score. I don't fucking know why. And 3 lives, which are the icons at the bottom under score. I thought they were C's, but then later on I could see that they are space helmets. Because as far as I'm concerned, you are a dude in a spacesuit or I guess knight armor. Really, none of the plot actually has anything to do in the game that I could tell.
So I think I may be trapped.
No, you can get out of here. Just walk to the... So the reason why you have such a generous amount of health is that I think you have a little bit of air control.
Nope.
And you can also kind of walk on the bottom, maybe. I don't know. You might be stuck. I don't know. Like I said, game not actually good. Sorry to spoil you there. Is that basically you take a point of damage or more for every frame that you were in contact with a thing that deals damage, which includes enemies, which also deal damage to you, and also some hazards. I think enemies also respawn after a very short amount of time for no reason. Always. There's no ability to move sideways without jumping.
Nope.
Then you may actually be stuck. I don't know. You gain, try pressing the top face button.
My controller doesn't work. So I'm using keyboard.
Okay, then press escape and see what is mapped to use item, because you do have an item and you could try to use it. Just go to remap controls. End or U.
It won't.
Oh yeah, to start both of these games, I had to actually press 0 on the keyboard part of the keyboard, not on the numpad. Okay, so I don't know what that does. Maybe it does.
Yeah, I'm basically trapped.
I mean, your experience is only slightly worse than mine was. You get up weapons. There are you start out with a regular gun. There are gun icons on the wall in some places that if you walk over them, you get a new type of gun that I trust in the game to have made my gun a little bit stronger, even if the upgrade looks like I'm shooting snots instead of beams. And then in some places, there are items such as a confuser that briefly makes all enemies on the screen not know what to do. It's mostly useful in areas where there are actual homing enemies rather than ones that just kind of go back and forth. There was a bomb, which was in terms of the French humor, it was in dialogue described as a BIM (parentheses French), because the Pink Panther movies were presumably current.
They were not. But
well, they were current in the minds of whoever fucking programmed that bit of dialogue.
I know, but I'm like, Peter Sellers had died by 1986.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was the Trail of the Pink Panther, released in 1982. But
okay,
Peter Sellers,
and that's the one that used old footage of him.
Yeah, because he had died. He had been dead for 2 years.
Okay, fair. And yeah, and there are weird things where sometimes you can fit through gaps and sometimes you can't. It's just awkward in general. See, shit just respawns after very little time for no reason. The large enemies take a lot of hits, and that's all I can really say about them. They didn't seem to be particularly important because at least half the time I could just walk past them. And yeah, the gameplay experience was very unguided. I don't think you can jump that high. Oh, and there are some platforms that you can jump up through. They are more color-coded in the ZX Spectrum version than they are in this version. I don't think that's one. No, I guess you can make that jump.
You don't tell me what I can and can't do.
So yeah, I don't know what the safe pass does. In at least one point, I got a platform key, and I found a locked exit platform, so I assumed it worked for that, but when I stood on it, I used the item and it didn't do anything. That was on the ZX Spectrum version, so maybe it was a glitch, which Adam said happens. Oh yeah, there's also no way to get on or off ladders prematurely.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
So yeah, I kind of don't even with this. I don't know if you can kill those turrets.
I'm trapped again.
Oh.
10 out of 10 game here.
Yeah, the audio on both versions is an ear. This is clearly a game that was intended to be like played by kids with a ton of time on their hands, probably as a group, and have them like collectively map out the fucking base.
Also, probably a masochism complex, because oh, good lord.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you have those. You lived in Europe where they don't have the NES, so you can't play Zelda or Super Mario Brothers
They had the NES, it's just it wasn't that popular over there.
No, I know it existed there. I meant like your family probably doesn't have.
Right. I mean, the big selling console over there was the Master System.
Well, yeah. I don't know any good Master System games. I know you probably Alex Kidd is better than this.
Oh, Alex Kidd's better than this. It's not. It
also does the press up to jump thing that I hate.
Yeah, but there is no particular kind of creak like old computer platformer creak.
Yeah, so this is just, I find this game unpleasant to look at, extremely unpleasant to listen to. The audio options are limited because this was designed to pump sound out of the built-in speaker buried in the guts of your computer. There is no volume control, even with the emulator. the only way I was able to turn the volume down to a non-ear splitting level without getting rid of it entirely, because I wanted to be able to hear what was fucking going on sometimes, was with the volume manager on my computer. Like, the emulator seems to be basically fine as far as I could tell, because all of the stuff that's jank feels like it's just the game being jank because they hadn't figured out how to make platformers. Not people, because this is post Super Mario Brothers. But these people on these platforms hadn't figured out how to make platformers that don't suck yet.
But once again, this game is just legitimately bad.
Uh-huh.
Like when we took a look at Jumpman, that was within the context of its time, fine.
And was that also from?
That was from that was from 1983. That was something that.
So maybe there isn't even an excuse. I don't know. I don't really recommend this game unless you have a real soft spot for this era of gaming. And in that case, may God have mercy on your soul.
Wow.
I guess.
Okay.
You know, what are they charging for it? I assume it's at least cheap.
It's very cheap. It's $2.
I guess at $1 per version. I can call this fine if you want to experience what things was like before games was good.
If you want true suffering.
I guess it's cheaper than Super Mario World is now, or Super Mario Brothers is now.
I know people complain about paying $5 for that, like, or did back when it was on like the Virtual Console, but you know that still was a better bargain than this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, it's not good. Like, I kind of like the humor, but A, it's a little bit like, even that is only kind of, and B, you have to actually play the game to encounter it. It might actually be better to just like try to find a manual and read that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's about all I got. I can't say much good for this.
I think that's been established, so we should probably wrap this particular review up here now.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that in mind, be sure to tune in. I keep saying after the break, even though we don't have breaks anymore.
It's a short break.
Yeah. But, tune in and we will be talking about Paper Nebula.